Um, I was wondering, could you tell about how Grandma's finger, how it got stiff, straight, or she couldn't bend it anymore?
She got an infection. It was just from a splinter.
And it was from the right hand, left hand?
I think, was that right?
It was this finger, ring finger, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
I think it was her left hand, though, because she
Left
used to be
hand.
able to. Although when she would eat, that finger would stick out, so maybe it was right. But anyway, she went to a martial doctor, and he cut a tendon. And I don't know, she left right away for Rochester, but she did. They went to Rochester.
So what was he trying to do?
I don't know. I'm sure it was a mistake. Because it was just an infection from a splinter, so he didn't have a very good reputation, but still, I don't know. I mean, nowadays he would have been sued, of course.
So how did Grandma know where to go to a different doctor?
She went to Rochester right away, of course. That's what everybody did.
So that's where the Mayo Clinic was?
Oh, yeah. That's where,
so that's
it's
where
always
she
been
went?
there. That one now, there's a couple more.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing, but the original one is in Rochester, Minnesota. And my dad, had his appendix taken out. There was two brothers that started this.
Oh.
And my dad, before he was married, I don't know how old he was, but he wasn't a kid anymore. But he had his appendix taken out by one of the Mayer brothers. So that was kind of famous, I think, something to remember.
But he didn't have ruptured appendix?
No. My mother did, though.
Oh, how old was she?
Same age as I was.
Oh, really? I can't understand why she never
Well,
put it together, why that you had appendicitis.
Well, I don't know either. And even when we were in Minnesota taking Mike to Kansas, and he didn't feel well in Minnesota, and even May said to my mom, do you think maybe he might have appendicitis? Something. And yet when he got to Kansas, he had to have surgery. So don't ask me why Mom did think she did or thought.
So Mike got appendicitis right after he
went to Kansas. He was in school. School had started. It wasn't right away.
I thought it was Thanksgiving time. No? It was right away.
It wasn't Thanksgiving. I don't think it. My surgery was right around Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Maybe it was Thanksgiving.
Well, but if he wasn't feeling well.
Yeah, but
it had to be.
You know, sometimes appendicitis acts kind of odd, because my mother always said, because I guess I used to get my side would hurt me or something, and she always said, I don't remember her saying this, but she would say it. I always said Evelyn's going to have appendicitis. But, of course, we didn't know anything about Mike's till he called from the hospital and said, I'm going to go in and have an operation. What?
Yeah, that would be scary.
Well, I knew he was and it wasn't like in the days of mine. I mean, they had everything there, so he was fine, but still. So then I don't know if I asked at that point or I called back and asked if it was ruptured. They said yes. But that was his fault because he didn't go. And he didn't have insurance, but we had, like you, we had insurance for him. He could have taken out insurance with the school, but Mike.
Oh.
But we had taken out insurance for him, so it covered that. And then the time he broke off his front teeth too.
Doing what?
Playing basketball.
Oh.
He called up that time and said, Mom, I just broke off my two front teeth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I thought, oh my gosh. But you'll notice his two front teeth look different than the rest of his teeth.
Oh. So, I mean, they didn't pull his teeth out and put...
Well, look, I suppose they'd have to, wouldn't they? If they were broken off, and probably they'd put it.
I don't know. He doesn't have a bridge.
Well, the two front teeth look very different, but I don't remember what they did. But again, we had covered him with for insurance, so that
Well, that's
took
good.
care of that too. So there were those two things. But anyway, but just notice his two front teeth look different than the rest of his teeth.
Okay.
But I don't know. I probably did it one time. But
I mean, now
forgot.
they could do implants or something like that, but I don't know what they did back
Have
then.
you seen this ad in the TV where people have a lot of problems with their teeth? They win in one day, and they just make beautiful teeth for them. I don't see how that works, but anyway.
I don't either. Because I think those implant things are like operations.
Yeah, I don't see how they do it in one day, but anyway, that's what they say, and the people look beautiful. But you know, you can't always believe advertisements. But anyway, so those are the two things with Mike in Kansas. I guess he did with this heel in basketball. What do you call that when they? Is it a tendon?
Oh, your Achilles tendon?
Yeah.
What did he
Yeah.
do?
I don't know. Playing basketball. Like, he was in the hospital. I remember.
Oh, my.
I was trying to think of one of the teachers. Who was it? Was he the English teacher in high school? Mr. I think the one whose father used to come and work at school during the summer. I mean, he was not a teacher, but he was fixing up stuff to fix him.
I don't know who that is.
Well, anyway, I remember he brought Mike home.
Oh.
Or he came over and told us that he was in the hospital or something. He wasn't in very long. But it was playing basketball.
I remember one time he broke the window of the rectory. That was baseball.
Yeah, just playing in the backyard, yeah.
Did Dad have to fix it? Who fixed it?
No, I think we just paid to have somebody do it. No, Dad. I don't think Dad did it. He could have, but I don't think he did.
Was that like with Pat O'Brien and all those kids?
Yeah, they used to play between the rectory and that row. They'd play in there, and that's where it was. Yeah. But I guess that's the story of him. Didn't do anything more serious than that, I guess.
Well, tell us about your appendicitis. So you were 13.
I remember it was very cold weather, and I got very sick to my stomach. To this day, I just have that same feeling. But there was a lot of this stomach flu going around, and you feel pretty miserable with that too. And I remember I was upstairs in one of the bedrooms, and I just felt so sick to my stomach. That's a terrible feeling too, being sick to your stomach. And this went on for a couple of days, and my mother thought it was the stomach flu because there was so much around. Then finally she decided she better call the doctor, so she called the doctor. And this was an evening because it was dark, I remember that. And the doctor's name was Dr. Happy. He was a younger doctor that came from St. Paul or Minneapolis. Because we had those other two doctors in Marshall that wouldn't let any other doctor go to their hospital.
That's right, yeah.
So I think he was, I don't think he stayed there too many years. But anyway.
So was that a hospital, like, would have been a house? I mean.
The one I went to was, but not the Marshall one.
Oh,
The
not
Marshall one was a brick building.
Oh,
It was
okay.
across from my Aunt Kit's.
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, I remember he said, we got to go to the hospital right away. So we had to go to Tracy because they wouldn't let him.
And that's like 30 miles away?
I think it was in the 20s.
20?
Yeah. So Mom and I went with Dr. Happy. And then we went.
He drove the car?
Oh, yeah. His car, yeah. And then we got there. And I remember, I guess Mom had a priest come over. The priest, it was right near where the rectory was. And I can still remember he came, heard my confession, gave me communion. And then the next thing I remember, during the surgery, I didn't have quite enough of, what do they?
Anesthetic?
Yeah, but what was it? It was one.
Ether?
Ether. Okay, I kind of remember coming out of that a little bit. And I don't know how many days I was really out of it. Mom, across the house, there was from the hospital, there was a couple that would take people like Mom. It was kind of like the Fisher House or something down. They would keep people because people come in from a long ways. It wasn't
What's the Fisher House?
Well, maybe not the Fisher House, but Fisher House is for children. Okay.
Oh.
Isn't that where?
I don't know.
Well, it's like by the hospital. There's one.
Yeah, like the
when they're far
Lodge
away
or
and they can
something.
stay.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was kind of like that, but it was just a couple, and he was a railroad man. I remember that. So my mother stayed there with them for about a week, but she also called and got a friend, Christine Phillips, who was a registered nurse from Marshall. So I think her brother brought her down. She wasn't married and lived with her brother. So I'm sure this is what happened. He brought her down, but I think she stayed with me a week. She was with me a whole week too.
She stayed in the hospital with you?
No, I don't know where Christine stayed, but my mother stayed. Maybe.
No, but, I mean, Christine stayed in the hospital. That was her. Why did Grandma bring her there? You were in a hospital.
Yeah, but she wanted a special nurse that could be with me. See, a special nurse, they'd be with you all the time.
I see.
Yeah. And they were family. This was family friends too. Very good friends of May's, that family. But anyway, I think for about 3 days I was out of it completely.
You remember her?
Yeah, kind of, because my period, I don't know whether I had already started, but I can still remember. I'm giving you pads.
To deal with that besides.
I remember her doing that. But, so I was there for a whole month.
Wow.
And of course, back then you didn't get too many visitors. Even Mom, they couldn't come down too often.
But Grandma could call Grandpa or no?
I don't know. I just don't know what the situation was there. Because there was times we didn't have a phone, times we did. But at that point, I think we probably did.
Why wouldn't you have a phone?
Just didn't have the cash to do it. And it was so poor, it was so hard to hear people. You know. But I think most of the time we had a phone. But there was times when we didn't. It was like probably when we had to burn the coal. That probably was a period when you didn't have a phone.
Trying to save money or something.
And then I remember coming home, and we had a sofa that you could open out into a bed. I think it was gone by the time you visited. But anyway, it was downstairs, so I got to sleep. And Mom had a little kitten, and I can still remember it in the bed with me, and it crawled all over me. Yeah.
Did you like that or not?
And I don't know, because I didn't go to school till April, I think.
Wow. So it's like 5 months, 6 months?
I think it was 4.
4 months?
Maybe it was, I think so. But anyway, but I can remember coming back to school that morning. There was a kid in the class, and when I walked in the room, he said, the dead have arisen.
Yeah, but you said there was also a black, like...
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh.
This was years later when Eileen was back. Well, she was working in Rochester, and she just came home for a visit. So she liked this one nun a lot. She was their 6th and 7th grade teacher. She's the one that put me ahead, or whatever you want to call it. She was a good teacher, and she was nice, and Eileen liked her. So she was visiting her. So the sister told her about this. That wasn't told directly to me.
I see.
Yeah.
So what so you'd say how they did it? They put it like a black...
Well, just a black cloth over my desk. That's all as I think it, yeah. But,
So how big a classroom? How many kids were in that? This was the Catholic one. I guess you went to that after the 2nd grade, 1st grade?
After the 2nd grade,
Second
I
grade.
went to Catholic school, yeah. I don't know why, because I think Mike put me, Mary, mom, somebody put me in the public school because she thought it was better. And and you didn't have to pay any tuition. And I'm sure even though you probably didn't pay very much in the Catholic, so you had to pay a little bit. So I don't know why I was moved. Kathleen, my cousin, was moved at the same time. But her folks moved
Well, they
back
probably
to
knew
Iowa.
you were doing fine in school, so maybe, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I guess. Well, yeah, she knew I was doing fine, I guess. Yeah. But anyway,
So where was the school? I know where the church was on a corner, so was the school behind it? Oh, I don't remember it.
but when they built a new school, it was over someplace near where Gregoire's lived, but I couldn't tell you exactly where that was.
On the farm?
No.
Oh.
They moved when they moved to town. I should have
Oh.
told that. Yeah. I don't know where that was.
Okay, so explain who the Gregoires are, because that's on your father's
Mary
side.
Gregoire is my first cousin, and her mother and my dad were brother and sister.
And so what was her name? The sister?
Frances Cannell was her sister. Is that what you're asking me?
No, so it's grandpa's sister. That was their mother. What's her name? Mag. Is that the one?
Mag, yeah. I mean, it's really Margaret, but they always called her Mag.
And then her family were farmers?
Everybody, all our families were really, nowadays, all the descendants are probably no farmers. But at that time, of course, that's the way it was, you know. We were an agriculture nation at that time. Now we're no longer. But we were close to my dad's family, mostly just Mom. And even though it was mostly May, my Aunt May, but their other relatives are all in Iowa. And at that time, a few hundred miles was like going 1,000 now or more. Yeah, so just you didn't see them very often. And like I say, most everybody had a car, but there was just one car in the family, and that was needed most every day. So you didn't. And one time we did, it was when my Uncle Mike he used to come and work for my dad some. But one time.
That was Grandma's brother, yeah.
Yeah. He was he was the youngest one in the family. No, he wasn't.
He's the one that never got married?
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so we were going to go down and visit some of Tom and that part of the family in Sioux City. It took us a whole day, and I think that was just a few hundred miles. Maybe, yeah, it wasn't too far. And I can remember we even took a lunch along. We stopped by the side of the road, had a picnic. Yeah, I can remember that.
So how fast could a car go then?
I don't know.
Like
Probably
30
not very
miles?
fast. I'm sure not very fast. When Mom would go over those hills, we thought it was just really going fast, and we probably weren't going very fast at all.
Lindy, if there was nobody and he wanted to get he'd go back side to side, and then the kids thought, oh, that was fun. They like that.
We just sort of, and I mean, if I'd go back and look at that road, it probably didn't have any hills, but because it was so flat in that part of the country.
Yeah, it was
but you got a
kinda-
little bit of a
yeah.
buzz out of it for kids, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Did Grandma like to have fun that way, or
Yeah,
yeah?
she
She liked to ride horses and.
yeah. But anyway, her finger, I think she was even in Rochester, but they put it was infected. So what they did there is they put hot packs on it. And
To
it
draw
brought
out the pus
yeah.
and stuff.
And I can remember that Gert, May's oldest daughter from her first marriage, Gert,
Yeah.
she must have been at the Chandlers or something, but she came and stayed with Eileen and I when Mom was in the hospital.
Oh, she was in the hospital.
Oh, yeah, oftentimes in Rochester, it wasn't like today. If you went over there,
You had to stay there.
You put you. I guess had a lot of rooms, but anyway, yeah, they usually didn't get treated like you do today in hospitals now, because she was there for a few days.
Well, it was hard to get there and come back and everything too, so maybe that's part of it.
Yeah. I suppose some other channelers or somebody might have gone. I don't remember her coming home, but I kind of remember telling about. I don't even remember her going, but I remember Gert being there, and I can remember she was making noodles one day.
Homemade noodles?
Yeah, I'd never seen my mom make them, but she made noodles for us.
Wow.
I remember that. Yeah.
So what was her last name? What was her father's?
Shanahan.
Shanahan. And then he was a farmer too?
Yeah.
And he died?
He had died of appendicitis.
Of appendicitis? Wow. So
And
did
I
any
think
of the
Gert was a
Chandlers?
year old.
Did any of the Chandlers get appendicitis?
I think they all did, but none of them got ruptured. But I think they all had the surgery. Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know if that's just something that.
Eileen didn't get she
No,
didn't have
she never had
appendicitis.
appendicitis.
Huh.
No, she was a healthy one. Yeah, I think all 5 of the Chandler kids had appendicitis. I mean, they had them taken out. I don't know how serious it was. None of them was ruptured. I know that. But
so, tell about so there was Homer and Bernice and Loretta. You put them in order for.
Loretta was the oldest.
Right.
Then Mary.
Okay.
Then Bernice. Then Homer, and then John.
John was the youngest. But Homer was the shortest.
Yes.
They sure look different, those two brothers.
Yeah. I remember their dad. He was tall like John, but I don't remember his. There was 2 boys in that family, just 2. And they were Homer and John too. And I guess
really?
Big, yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
So maybe the other one was short, but I don't know. They were in Iowa, so I never saw them. I saw their mother. She was kind of a dowager.
That's their grandmother?
I mean,
the kids'
yeah, she thought she was anyway.
Oh.
She had wore jewelry and it's raining pretty good there. That's good. That's good. Yeah. And I think when she died, she gave each of the kids. I was trying to think how much it was. But they thought it was a lot, but nowadays it wasn't. You think, oh, that is not very much. I can't remember what the amount was, but
it really helped them out, maybe.
Yeah, because I can remember somebody did something, and they really needed it, and they were able to use it for that purpose. So that was good, but I don't remember exactly what it was.
Now, Mary's husband, something happened to him, too.
Yeah, he was going to an elevator about, I think it was probably 3 or 4 miles from where he lives, and he was going to pick up some feed. And there was snow on the ground.
And he had a car, truck?
Well, you'd have a wagon with a tractor pulling it.
Oh, I see.
And you get your feed in the
something they could cover up?
You would have something if it was raining or it was snowing, I guess. But anyway, I don't know the whole story because it was really at the Chandlers. But anyway, I guess somebody saw him in the ditch. His tractor and his wagon was in the ditch, and he was dead.
Oh.
But so nobody ever knows exactly what happened.
Why he went in the ditch?
The only thing they can think of was kids used to go walk to school back and forth a lot, and whether they threw a snowball and hit him, just in the place where it killed him, they'll never know.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess he didn't do autopsy.
Well, probably not. Probably not. Yeah.
So, how many kids did Mary have?
She had 2, and she was expecting the other one. She was pregnant with a 3rd child.
And so is that when she moved to the cities?
I think she stayed on the farm for a while, but then May and Loretta came and lived with her most of the time. She said she was in Marshall for a while. She farmed for a while, and then she went to the city.
And she worked there, right? What did she do?
What company did she work for?
GE or something?
No, it wasn't GE, but it was a famous one, and if I could think of it.
Westinghouse?
It was working with, they were where she was working, it was a manufacturing place where they made parts for whatever.
Oh.
She worked there for quite a while.
So it wasn't like an assembly line, it was like...
No, I don't think
they
so.
were making things.
Oh, no, not like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think I went to her house one time. I think I remember.
Oh yeah,
her
we
house.
went. Yeah, I think you should remember.
It had stairs. I remember that.
It was a big house. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was a nice house, big house. And that's all I remember. I think after when she sold that house, she went into one of her son's wife's parents had a house, and they rented the top part, and they lived downstairs.
That's the part I remember. That there was a. I mean, I remember this story.
But anyway, they lived. Mary lived there for a long time because May and Loretta came back to Marshall. Do you remember the house there?
The white one. Is that the one?
Well, it probably was Marshall. But anyway, one year the church had a raffle. I guess somebody gave the lot to the church, so they had a raffle, and John won it.
John Chandler.
Chandler won it.
Oh.
And then, I don't know whether he gave it to his mother or he sold it, whatever. But anyway, they put a house on it anyway. And then May and Loretta lived in it for quite a few years, because the years I used to go back for Mom and Dad when they were sick, they lived in this house in Marshall. It was a nice house, yeah. But anyway, Mary, after she sold her house, then she went in and lived in this upper part of the house. Mm-hmm. Then I guess the next thing, this was kind of towards the end, but I think she went into an assisted living for a little while, and then, but she did die in a hospital. I never knew exactly what her problem was, but she was older then too, so I'm not surprised.
You seem to like her, I remember.
Everybody liked Mary. She was just one of these people. There was one of the girls in her class said that, she said, I even tried to make her get mad at me, and I couldn't even do that. Yeah, everybody liked Mary. I think everybody liked John, but probably not quite as much as Mary. And Mary was, yeah, she was.
But who did she look like? I don't remember much about how she looked.
I think they all looked like their dad more than May. And I don't, of course, Loretta, May's, when she was younger, she was very good looking.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think she...
May had blonde hair?
I don't think so. I think they probably all had dark hair.
Mm-hmm. So where did John had kind of light hair?
The dad.
Oh, the dad
Their father had light hair.
Oh.
Yeah. I think he was German. They'd always say he was Pennsylvania Dutch, but I think that's German. Have you ever heard the term Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I don't know. I think I read it someplace it's German, so I don't know. I just kind of... But that's what he was anyway. But they had light hair. It wasn't blonde, but it was light. Because all the kids had that color hair. Lighter. It wasn't dark like I did.
But Homer's was dark. No? Wasn't Homer's dark?
Maybe darker than the rest of the family, but none of them had dark hair like Eileen and I.
But wavy? Did they have wavy hair? Wavy hair?
No, I don't.
No, they had straight hair.
I don't think there was any good. No.
If Eileen's hair, if she would have grown it out, did it have any curl at all?
It had a little, but it wasn't like mine.
So
I think it was easy to do stuff with, you know, but it wasn't like mine. I think our color was about the same.
So where did the wavy hair come from? From Grandpa's or Grandma's side?
I think both sides.
From both sides? Mm.
But Mom's hair had you could do a lot of, kind of, maybe that's the way Eileen's was. You could do stuff with it, but I don't know where they're really curly. I don't know where to, because when I was little, mine was pretty curly.
I remember remember that picture of you guys all in the mud hole or whatever it was. That's pretty curly, Mom.
It's supposed to be a lake.
It doesn't look like a lake.
It must have been during a drought or something when there was hardly any water. It was not much of a lake anyway. It was just kind of mud always. I don't ever get, as I got older, I don't ever remember even, sometimes we go down and look at it, but I don't remember ever doing anything there. I don't know who owned the property or what it was even.
Where was it?
It was east of where we live, and Uncle Charlie lived between at one time because he was just a renter, so he would move different places. But at one time we lived here, Charlie lived here, and then this mud hole was over here.
Oh.
And that was east of us.
So he was a farmer too.
Oh.
Real farmer. Is he the one that drank? Which one drank?
That was on Mom's side. That
was Charlie was on your dad's side.
Yeah, Charlie was.
So then did he, oh no, you said he rented. So Grandpa's the only one that got their family farm.
Well, I think this is where, I think this is where all the trouble started. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, yeah. No, on my mother's side, they didn't have that problem. I mean, Mom's husband, Dad, they had a farm, and Mom's youngest sister, Winnie, they had a farm. Their name was Clark. They lived in Iowa, though, so I don't know. But I think those are the only two from that family that had a farm.
So Winnie, and who's the other one? Tom?
My dad.
And your dad, I know.
My mother. That had farms. The rest of them were farmers, but they rented.
I still didn't get who it was. It was Grandma, Winnie. Who's the third one?
That's only two.
Oh, just the two?
That's the two, I think.
That owned them.
That owned farms. The rest of them all just rented it. Yeah, because Tom and Mabel's husband later left the farm and worked at a hardware store in Red Hook. He was Scandinavian, I don't know, Swedish or Norwegian. But anyway, this Winnie I'm telling you about and Mom were the only two that married Catholics.
Oh, really?
Well, maybe Tom too. But his wife died very, very young. Had the three little girls. But in the part of Iowa where they lived, there were mostly Scandinavian people, I think. Because Mabel married Reno Newberg. How could you get more Scandinavian than that? Yeah, so.
So, did Maud, how did she get to Oregon?
Well, this was kind of after the Depression or during it. But anyway, they had a farm and they lost it in Iowa.
Oh.
And they had friends that went out to Oregon. And I guess they were making it anyway, so that's why they went out, was because of friends. And it was in, where's the town they live in?
I should know that. You've told me enough times.
Yeah, I can't think.
But you said that they had like a gas station and that she did cooking in the building or something?
Well, no, this was her husband built it was just kind of a little plain little house. It was nice because that's when I went out there, that's what they were living in. But they had kind of a big living room. And this is what she made into a little restaurant, is the room of the house.
I see.
When I was out there, that was no longer. He had a job with the highway department, the state, and then she was running this little gas station up the street.
Oh, so there was never a gas station with her house?
No. It was down the street, yeah.
So then when she worked at the gas station, she wasn't cooking for her restaurant?
No. But she, in her gas station, she did have a little, if somebody come in and want coffee, she had it there, because I can remember, and she sold ice cream. There was things she did there, but not a lot.
It wasn't like she was cooking there?
No.
I see. So what did he do while she was having this restaurant, or did she?
I think he had a job with the state then.
Oh, he got that right away.
I think he must have pretty soon afterwards. I think he built the house for them, and then. Yeah.
So what was the line about butter that this is the ant that line came from, right? If you add enough butter and cream, it can make anything good.
That was Maud.
Well, that was your mother.
No,
Maud.
Maud, that was Maud. So she's the one that did the cooking in her little restaurant. And let's see, well, we were in Salem. No, that was her son that had the little restaurant.
Huh?
Well, they had 3 children. They had 4. They had 3 girls and a boy. And this is much later. The son, I think he was married then, but he had a little restaurant in Salem.
Oh.
And we were visiting Maud, I guess, and Frank. And we stopped there on our way home. We stopped at Salem.
Oh.
So I guess he learned from his mom. I don't know. But then he went into that, or maybe that was, I don't know if that was, he was in the Navy though, and it was the Navy. He was up in Oregon someplace, but it wasn't out along the coast. It was kind of inland. It was a place what's the Navy doing here?
Oh.
But he got married when he was there, and I think they had 1 son. But they got divorced after a while, and then he married again. But I don't think he lived too long after that. And yet he was younger than I was, so. And then the older 2 girls, they were truck farmers, both of them, husbands were. And then Connie, the one I knew, the youngest girl, her husband worked for PG&E or something in Salem, but he was from Kansas.
Oh.
But I think he had been in the Navy or something, and he'd been, I guess, in Oregon. He liked it. So, but anyway, but I think it was PG&E, but it was some.
So was Connie living at home when you?
Oh yeah.
When you.
But she was in. She took beautician work. She'd go into Salem every day.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, so they were pretty close to Salem.
Oh yeah, wasn't very far. Wasn't very far.
So, Dad was in the CCCs somewhere near there too? No?
No, he was over in Eastern Oregon.
Oh, Eastern Oregon.
We were there, which you probably don't remember. It was just kind of a very dry.
Yeah. I kind of remember.
I think it was kind of high desert because it seemed like it was higher.
Oh.
I should know the name of the town too. It's on your trunk.
Oh.
I think it's when they put
Label?
stuff or something. Yeah, I think it's there. If I saw it, I'd remember it. But we went there. He wanted to go there one time, and I think it was when we went to the
It
fair.
could be.
I think it was when we went to the fair.
The only thing I remember, I think we went to where you thought maybe the gas station was, or where the Maud was. I can remember that, and there were a lot of pine trees and.
Yeah, of course it was over by the coast. But where Dad was in CC's, it was more desert.
That I don't remember.
And I guess it was a town, but I don't even remember the town. But I remember we got there, so we knew what it looked like. But anyway, yeah, but it was.
How long was Dad there? A couple years?
I wouldn't know. I can't remember. There's a lot of pictures of him when he was there with fellows that were in the CC. But I don't know how long he was there. And then war came along, so. And then he was in San Francisco, and when war was declared, they were at a movie in San Francisco, and so of course you had to go. So that.
Why was he in San Francisco though?
Well, that's where the Navy had put him. I don't know where he took his training.
Oh, so he was already in the Navy when war was declared. Oh, I see.
He was in the CC's, but he knew the war was nearing, so he joined. So I think he did join up there, and then. But he said when it was declared, they were all in not all of them, but he was in with others in a movie. Yeah.
I guess that's the time difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it happened early in the morning in Hawaii.
I just remember I was at St. Ben's then.
Oh.
And it was at lunchtime, and I can remember them announcing it It was on a Sunday, I remember that.
Uh-huh.
And it was lunchtime, and I remember them announcing it in the dining rooms.
So you didn't have even a newspaper that you could read
Well,
about
there
stuff.
was the library had few main newspapers you could go in there.
Oh.
But I don't know, we just seemed like we were so very detached from it. There were some girls that if some member of their family went in,
Yeah.
a lot of them just left school.
Yeah.
But those you didn't, it wasn't like today where everything is, the news and everything is just instantaneous, you know.
Yeah.
And the one thing I remember, we did do something, we folded bandages, which is one thing they had people do. And I can remember in the evening we'd go down and fold bandages they were gauze bandages, you'd fold them in a certain way, you know, that were used in surgeries.
The government would give the school the gauze.
I think they would. I don't know if there's anything else attached to it, or maybe they didn't even do that, I don't know. But I remember doing that. Folding all these little bandages.
And then how did you keep them from
I don't know.
dirty?
I don't know what they did with
something?
them. I don't know what they did. I don't remember that. Probably boxes, and then they'd have to put them in, sanitize them somehow. But,
I see.
but that was done away from where we were.
I guess you hear stories about folding bandages, all right.
Yeah.
So where was Eileen when the war came? What year of school were you when the war came? What grade level were you?
I think I was a junior, because the freshman and sophomore had larger dining room, and all the tables in there, they were round. You were kind of like a family. Freshman and sophomore, you had big long tables.
Oh.
So, and I was at one of the round tables, so I know. Well, I must have been a junior.
I see. So
Well,
would have Eileen been a freshman or first year student at the nursing?
I think she was in nurses training, because I know they had a program for nurses during the war, the government, and my dad didn't want her to do it.
Oh, so she went into the government program?
She did, but my dad didn't want her to, because he didn't want her to go into service, but she did it anyway.
But she didn't go into service when the war
Well,
was over.
It was over.
Yeah. That's what Paul's mother did. She went to the Philippines or something.
Betty's sister did. What was her name? But anyway, she went to St. Ben's 1 year, so I got to. Well, she was just the opposite of Betty. You never know they were sisters. They didn't even associate with each other. They didn't look anything alike. Anyway, but she went there 1 year. The Benedictines had a nursing program, but it was in St. Cloud. They're the same order, but you had to go to St. Ben's 1 year and then go to the hospital training. That's what she was, why she was up there.
So what was she like?
Was she? Yeah, I don't know. She just was so opposite. I don't think she's a person you would like. She just no. Yeah. But she became a nurse, and what she did during when they were bringing the wounded from the West, from Japan or wherever, that's what she did. She was on those planes bringing the injured back to the States. But she died a number of years ago, and I don't remember what Betty told me her problem was, what happened. But I think she met her husband during that time. Yeah. I can't think of her name.
Elsie.
Elsie, that's
Is
right.
that the one?
I think so. And then when we were, I think maybe sophomores. Well, I guess Mr. James always wanted to move out to the West Coast. He worked for the government. I think he was an electrician or something. But anyway,
But they lived in Pipestone, right?
yeah, when they were in Minnesota, yeah. And then they moved out to the West Coast. And he was working on the government job, but he was also working in Salem teaching something electrical, and it was probably just overwork, but he died of a heart attack. So Betty's mother was left with these 5 kids.
Betty's where in that order?
Betty was the oldest, and then Elsie. And then there was 2 boys, and then how many kids were there? And then there was Jeannie, and then there was a little girl. How many?
That's 6.
I guess there was 6. Yeah, 4 brothers and 2. Yeah.
Wow.
But they lived on the government property there, and so I guess she was able to stay there. And I remember she worked in the laundry. Yeah.
Was this a reservation or what kind of government thing?
Yeah, I think it was a school. It was one of these government schools for the Indians. Yeah, Shimawa.
Yeah, I think Paul said his uncle, they put him there. I mean, of course, the Indians didn't like those schools, but I think that's what Paul said.
Yeah. I think you'll still see the name. I don't know what the one they call. Maybe what the one in Pipestone had any other name than Pipestone, but I think Shimoma one you'll still see that on a map. But what it's maybe they just kept the name of the town and put something else in. I don't know.
So where is it near?
But it's near. When I would go from Maud and go to where I taught, it was between there and there. So it's south of the capital, Salem.
Pretty close there.
Yeah.
It wasn't called Franklin or something, was it? No, I don't know. It'll come to you.
You'd think I could remember that. But it was just, you wouldn't know it was a town. There was a gas station and there was a meat market, grocery store with a meat market in it. Because I remember Maud would always, after work, she'd always stop and get meat. We really had fresh meat every day.
Oh, that's nice.
But there wasn't much there. And I remember years later going through there and there still wasn't much there. There wasn't much. But if you were in Portland, you go south, then you'd hit there were little towns in between. Then you hit Salem, and then I can't remember that. I remember the university is in one town down here, and I think you first come to the state college. And 2 of the teachers I taught with, one had gone to Oregon State, and the other one had gone to the University of Oregon.
Well, how did you get the teaching position out there? You went.
I don't
did
know
you?
I think I went out there and then got it.
Oh, I see.
Because one year when I was still in college, Maud and her son Frank came back to visit Grandma. Maud's mother, Grandma was still living then, so they came back to see Grandma.
I see.
And they came back, and like I said, I think it was either junior or senior, and they kept saying, "Why don't you come back? Why don't you come back?" So I thought, and I always kind of wanted to go back, so that was it. But once I got it after I went out there.
I see. But you went by yourself then, out there?
No. The first year I didn't teach her. I didn't want to teach. I wanted to be a med tech. So I had applied for. You had to go and
take a class.
Well, it wasn't a class. You worked right in the hospital.
Like apprenticeship.
And I applied to. It wasn't the University of Minnesota, but it was a public hospital. It was like a big hospital.
So you applied to the hospital itself?
Yeah, that's what I did, yeah. And I was accepted. And so I went back and I started, and I think I stayed 6-7 months. But I realized I didn't have enough of background. It just, because St. Ben's didn't offer that, which was my first mistake. But anyway, so then Betty had taken a school right after she graduated in Minnesota. So she was going home to Oregon, so I went with her. And then,
So was that the time you took the train and then with all the soldiers on it?
yes, yeah, we got on the train. There wasn't a seat. She had gone back to visit her family while we were still in college, and she knew the rigmarole, what to do. So she got what do you call the main
Porter
or somebody. So we had a seat. She paid him off a little, but we got a seat. And then when I got out there, I think you could almost get a job doing anything, but of course I still wanted to be in the medical field. And so I did work in a TB hospital for a little while, till I got a job teaching again. But it was lab work, yeah, So if I have tested for TB now, I will be positive, for the rest of my life. Because somehow, if you've been in contact with anything, I guess this happens. But I know that because I have been tested, and it's always positive.
But you didn't have?
No. It was a beautiful place to work because it was a government thing. It was a government facility, and they just kept the lawn so beautiful.
So
but I remember there was a nun that was in the hospital because you had to go into hospitals at that time. Nowadays they have medications, I think, for TB, but at that time it was so contagious. But I still remember there was a nun. She had TB.
Yeah, you just kind of lived there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't. Well, I did.
But I mean,
I did. But I went to Maud.
The patients.
The patients had to stay there. Yeah. But we had beautiful, complete building for us, the people that worked in the labs and so on. And they, yeah. But I only worked there just a few months in the summer. Then I got the TB. But it was during that time that I got a letter from some big chemical company.
Yeah, Dow or something.
Yeah, but I had
DuPont
already signed the
something.
contract to treat. Yeah.
And if you would have taken that job, you would have been back east somewhere.
Probably, yeah, because it was a company back east. Yeah. You always wonder, what if? But I'm sure everybody has a tale like that.
Yep. Oh.
But when I was teaching wasn't hard like it is nowadays. It wasn't so much extra stuff you had to do. You were pretty much on your own.
I mean, well, yeah. But
You get
I mean,
to
Lindy's
deal with
feeling
something.
is also that when you taught, and even when he started teaching, teachers got a lot more respect than they do nowadays. Now everything they blame on the teacher.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I'll see how we did. No, we did. Oh, we talked almost an hour.
Run out of stuff to talk about.